And welcome everybody, as I say, to another Wu-Sabat Outformation class out of the UK, brought to you by All Eyes on Egypt, Midlands and the North, as a subset of United Sabians worldwide. So the elements that Wu-Sabat was touching upon in the introduction. If you want more information, check out the website that you see there, unitedsabiansworldwide.com, and obviously you can also look at our Facebook page and our YouTube channel of the same name. So for those who just joined us for the first time, we have been looking at this subject, this actual fact referred to as the proof. We're on the sort of final part, really part 25b. So just going to finalize that today from the elements that we were looking at, and then we'll have a little bit of a recap quiz, so nothing to be afraid of. If you don't know the answers to the questions, simply put your best guess, best foot forward, so to speak, and then we'll go through the answers together once we've, as I say, you've had an opportunity to test your knowledge and answer those questions. In that regard, if you're on Facebook Live, then obviously it's a view only platform, so by all means obviously join us on Zoom if you want to. When we do go through the quiz, for those who are on Zoom, obviously you'll have the options on your devices and you'll be able to answer the questions accordingly. But for those who are on Facebook Live, then I'll go through the questions on screen one by one, and you can put the answers directly into the chat, and then obviously once we give the answers, you can check your own knowledge or scores, or just keep your own personal record, whatever's comfortable for you. We're not retaining necessarily any information on those scores. It's for your own personal benefit. Okay, so so where we were at a couple of weeks ago, we sort of were going for these sort of final elements of the proof. So avert your eyes. I'm just trying to get to where I am, or where I was the last time. We can finish this off. So yeah, so we were going through, on the proof, touches upon the Master Teacher touched upon his own journey in relation to us. Now I think it's important, as it was touched upon earlier in this introduction, it can seem like a team Dr. Malachi KZ York, maybe if you're coming into this for the first time. But the point is that, as you know, in this day and time, one of the things that this spell that has been cast upon our people and has kept us, or forced us, I suppose, in a situation where we've forgotten who we are. We have a lack of a connection, as I say, to our story. We are untuned with natural nature, and we have lost knowledge of the nature's rules, or the rules within existence, that not only work for us, but obviously are the reason, or the cause behind cause, the cause that causes cause and effect. You understand? The who, what, where, why, and how is lost from us, and unfortunately we've had a tainted view of how the world works, or how existence works, or even a non-view of how the world works, how existence works, how the universe works, how life started, how things came around, etc. Only through the lens of often white translators who translated books, or Arab translators who translated books into English, and that's our view and perspective of the world, be it the Torah of the so-called Jews, the Bible, and obviously post that the Quran. Understand? So the first chapter, or the first chapter, second chapter, the third chapter, really of the same book. You understand? So although they would see themselves as separate, understood, they're all degrees almost of the same story. Do you understand? And in actuality, as you saw from the diagram that Wu-Sabat showed, you step back from that, and then you see that those stories themselves are copied from the Sumerian tablets, understood. So we've had a significant problem, and one of the issues for us is that of the characteristics of this spell, which in modern times is known as the spell of Leviathan. You understand, the last aspect, it has 3 iterations. The last aspect was the spell of Leviathan, which is the spell of money. But the characteristics of that is also about us as a people failing to be able to see or recognizing, or having difficulty recognizing leadership in our own skin color. Understood? We always bat up against it. And so when we touched upon, I suppose, they're not the only teachers, but 7 key or 6 key teachers then came in. The master teacher was the 7th. Yeah, we batted against what they came to give at the time. Do you understand? We rebelled against it oftentimes in favor of other foreign teachings, which were foreign to not only our mindset, original mindset, one could say, but the original ways of natural nature, gifted or programmed within our DNA, you understand, and expressed within our genes for the environment that we were born into. Understood? And so we bucked against that in favor of a virus inside of us called monotheistic religion, a virus inside of us called bad information, a virus inside of us called faith and belief. Do you understand? Versus the true spirituality for ourselves, which was factual information, or certainly is, in the hereafter, into the thereafter doctrine, once the devils were all ended in the year 2000. So this is a real problem where, as I say, continually through the medium of the media, the television, the cinema, all of these things, as I say, have progressively attacked through wrong racism, you understand, attacked the idea of black leadership, be it male predominantly or even female, more latterly since 2012, where this natural nature is bringing us back to matriarchal thinking. It has attacked black leadership in any shape or form, where we have a difficulty, as I say, accepting that in our own skin colour, but have no problem accepting it, certainly when it comes in white skin oftentimes, and that's the programming. Do you understand? How many funerals or spiritual ceremonies, etc., as we as a people, you have a church full of, black people burying one of our elders, for example, and there's a white pastor or preacher carrying out the ceremony. Do you understand? Now, does that make me a racist for that observation? Well, that's what the society would like to classify it as. But yet, you go into an Arab mosque, for example, you're not going to see a black person leading that congregation. You go into a Jewish synagogue, you're not going to see a black person leading that congregation or burying their dead, for example, in one of their rituals, or very rarely if that's going to be the case. But in us, probably rare in certain parts of the world to see us burying, or certainly the Western Hemisphere, see us burying our dead, because we don't own the churches or synagogues or the mosques or whatever, or those structures within this environment. So monotheistic religions really makes us as a people subservient to other races. Understood? When all races, you understand, have the should have the right, their genetic right, that their religion or their culture, etc., should align them with their own creators and their own ancestral forces. So until, as I say, it was necessary, as I say, I won't say until, but what we're now going into, what we're reading about, what we touched upon, was about the necessity that were to correct that as we were moving cycles, isn't it? We were coming out of what's referred to as the moon cycle or lunar cycle from 1970 into the new 24,000 year cycle and the first 6,000 years of that sun cycle, do you understand, after the year 2000. And basically, for those who are newer to this information, lunar cycle, the planet Earth, obviously it's in an elliptical orbit around the sun, understood, and at certain points within this 24,000 year cycle, the planet is further away, we refer to that as lunar cycles or silver cycles, and at certain points that elliptical orbit means that the planet is closer to the sun, and refer to those as gold or sun cycles. You understand? So they talk about 93 million miles the planet is away from the sun, or Earth is away from the sun, and that varies. Do you understand? It can be 93 and its closest point can be 91. Understood? And so as we are aware, yeah, the closeness, or the closer to the sun, the mood, you understand, of vibration on the planet, you understand, the energy changes. So what we're talking about in terms of emotions, remember, is energy in motion. So if we're closer to the sun and the sun is getting hotter, not just because of man-made climate change, but naturally occurring events as this cycle is changing, then the mood of vibrational energy is going to change. You understand? And we documented that at one time. We recorded it, tracked those changes, so we were ready emotionally for the sort of difference in cosmic energy that was going to hit this planet. Understood? So nature is forcing that change again, and those without the sufficient amount of melanin, obviously it becomes a problem for them, you understand, in these days and times where the planet obviously is getting hotter in that regard, and a problem for us if we follow after their ways, you understand, and basically leave our melanin because of food intake or care, so on and so forth, in a position where our melanin is not operating the way in which it was designed to do. You understand? So now we see, as we touched upon previously, you know, blacks through ignorance wearing sun cream and different things like that when they get into hot countries. When those born in the Caribbean, in Africa, all across these continents, South America, whatever, they don't know nothing about no sun cream. Do you understand? So the issue is that if you happen to wear it because you are getting burned, it may mean that your melanin is not working correctly. So why not fix the problem? Why not society teach you to fix that problem, understood, which natural nature has gifted you the ability to protect yourself against, rather than use this external whatever cream and factors in for people who don't have sufficient amounts of melanin. They want to lump everybody under the same vibration to hide their deficiencies or weaknesses. Understood? So our story doesn't just start on this planet, it goes in and beyond the stars. Understood? And now governments of the world seemingly want to introduce this idea of extraterrestrials, and are slowly having numerous different forums where they're seeking maybe to have these discussions, and things that they certainly in some of their more secret, let's say, aspects of the organization, or classified aspects of government departments, etc., where they've known this information for some time. Now they're trying to find a way to release that to the world in a manner that still enables them to have control. Understood? Because they start introducing this information, these monotheistic religions, which have enabled or pacified the people, for example, are going to struggle, let's say, with the conflict of that brings against their belief systems. Understood? So to us, as we now start to delve into this subject a little bit more, do extraterrestrials exist? Yes, they do. We receive particles, which they refer to as photons, from the sun every sort of a second waking moment of time, where the sun is emitting energy, which obviously provides heat and sustenance, obviously, to this planet. Understood? And so you felt the power of our sun 93 million miles away, and so those particles are extra to Terra, which is Earth, and astral from the sky. So do extraterrestrials exist? Yes, they do. Do we have things called meteorites? Yes, we do. A meteorite is a comet, effectively, that has come from outer space and entered into the Earth's atmosphere. So that is also what we would classify as extra to Terra from astral, the sky. So do extraterrestrials exist? Yes. Now, do they exist insofar as yes, so those aspects we just touched upon, that is an actual fact. Yes, if you felt the heat from the sun, then that is extraterrestrial, understood, in nature. And we know that in our culture, we are the only ones, so others have said it in their prayers, like on their Christian Bible, they talk about in Matthew chapter 6 verse 9, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, understood. But they've talked it or written it down, understood. But we are the ones, understood, who actually built our cities and our structures to mimic the heavens, understood, as we'll touch upon a little bit in this class today. We built our cities and our structures in alignment with the heavens because we understood that we, or our deities, are sons. They're S-U-N sons. That's our higher ancestors. And we were their, obviously, terrestrial representation. That is why they are referred to as ancestors, and we are referred to as their descendants. Because we descended down from that gaseous state, to represent the sun here on earth, understood. And so what you'll see in our story is actual facts, foundational proof, you understand, whether it's in the environments that we operate within, whether you see it in natural nature, whether you see it in our genes. This is where our story is recorded. Others cannot say the same. Others make claims that they cannot back. They have the oldest of this, the oldest book, the oldest translation, the oldest of something. Old is not original. So somebody can say they have the oldest Torah. Well, where's the original? Someone can say they have the oldest Quran. Where's the original? The Bible, as we know, was a book put together by a group of men referred to as the Council of Nicaea, in particular, understood, and various different ecumenical councils over the years that decided what books should go in and what books should be omitted. So that is not original. That is not divinity. That's the choices of men. Like the people on this call, well, who thought they were greater, let's say, understood, and we have made ourselves lesser by putting ourselves under their decision making, and not seeking the truth. No one here on this call has is compelled to have to put the lens of how they see the world, how they came around, the lens of their divinity through another race of people. That's enslavement or slavery, or certainly for us. So when you look at your skin color, which you are ridiculed for oftentimes, for those melanated beings on the call, I know we have all different races on our calls, but for those who are melanated, when you look up at the so-called night sky, you're closer to that blackness color, understood, of which everything submits to or is within. You understand? Even the tremendous power of the suns that exist throughout the universe, into the multiverses, so on and so forth. We're closer to the color of the blackness of space, but we're taught to ignore that, understood, in favor of the light. When in actuality, to us, the darkness, understood, represents supreme balancement, understood, tranquility, peace, order, where the light always represents chaos. Yes, and the majority of existence is blackness. It is not the light. So who are you closer or more synonymous with, or in sync with, when you look in the mirror? The darkness or the light? So we're born into a dark place, and are designed to see better in darkness than we are in the light. So we were touching upon, as I say, a little bit more about the Master Teacher Journey as we're finishing off this class called The Proof. A lot of time which we sort of cover off in the introduction. We're just getting into a bit more detail here, and then we'll get into the quiz. Yep. So let's start at we'll start 449 at the top of this page. I think that's where we got to the last time we were teaching a couple of weeks ago. So this is out of the proof, yeah, an actual fact that we've been looking at for the past 25 or so parts. Yeah. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll do my best to answer the questions today as your student teacher. So press the Q&A button or put your hand up in that regard. So 449 says the governments world over found planets, tri-solar systems, of which I taught as far back as 1970, and life on Mars and so much more I taught long before it became public. The 24,000 genomes of humans, the crossbreeding of humans and Hawanat animals, UFO aliens, 450. I even gave the Rananat names of aliens later found in government's books, Blue Planet Project Code Aramis 3, ADR 3-24SM, page 58, Krill, and Krill. 451. While you can check out Sa'at and Loma and the others who were the ones who abducted me at age 9 while I lived in Teaneck, New Jersey, who taught me so much, yet when I answered them as to who taught me and who I am as Yaanuwn and Yaanuwn, a Riskian or Mozaku, where I was from, Iliun, and how I came into the Raham womb of Mary Abba Dr.York and Al-Mahdi, no one accepted it as true, so I did what I came to do, set the Sajal record straight, and now that Wu-Sabat or Wu-Sabat is on the move and spreading world over, many are coming to know the truth of who and what I am and why I incarnated to them. So when we're sort of reading this in this context, remember the programming means that when it's not of a sort of, say, monotheistic origin, we have a hard time questioning it, which we should do, or skeptical about it. But when it was delivered through those mediums, be it the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, be it the Bible, you understand, obviously, which the Torah is contained, the Bible contains the Torah, and the Quran, yeah, we're happy to accept the miracles and magic and unexplained divinity of their stories, but if it comes from somebody else's culture, then you're programmed to have a problem with it. You understand? So I suppose the proof of this is in the fruit in which the tree bears, isn't it? So you have to look at the body of work, the explanations, and come to your own conclusion around it. No one is saying here on this particular call or in these teachings that just because it's stated, you should accept it. You understand? If you've not seen an extraterrestrial, i.e. a grey or a reptilian or things of that nature, then it's not factual to you unless you personally have seen it. Some people claim they have, others haven't, but we retain an open mind in that regard. And the question is, and this has been something that's been posed many times in this forum, is that a first world people, or the original people, as I say, of this particular planet, in the sense of ourselves coming out of the sands people, we don't dig up the bones of our ancestors to find out who we are. So what's our mechanism of renewal? You understand, the planet has gone through many, as we touched on previously, extinction level events where certainly surface life forms have been wiped out and we have had to restart, understood, from a tribal context, you understand, replenishing, the earth with ourselves and many different, obviously, creatures that were destroyed by way of those extinction level events. Some permanently wiped out, and even new species arising out of that change. Understood? But first world people around the world, were even not just Nagaru, but many indigenous people around the world have records that they keep, and they're not necessarily indulging in modern day sciences of archaeology, paleontology, and things of that nature. Excuse me. One moment. But still highly scientific, still have records, and the question is, how are those records then renewed? You understand? So in our culture, of course, the terminology Amun Nabab Reye Hatta is unknown to many, but it's a mechanism for renewing our story, where our ancestors, let's say, select a vehicle or a vessel, understand, in order to convey and design this science of Wu-Sabat, and design it for the people and tailor it for the people, obviously in the day and time, for the mindset that our genes, having tumbled forward, are in the day and time that we're dealing with. So it then becomes a medicine for our people for this realignment, you understand, back with natural nature, and of course back with our own ancestors. Understood? So just checking, any questions? Any questions?
Sorry, Mouse was sleeping. No questions.
Okay, understood. So let's look in and delve into this. We were given some references here in relation to krill. Yeah, so planet, the blue planet, excuse me, Project Claude. Here and some references from beings that the master teacher mentioned. Do you understand? In very early books in the 70s, and now it seems that government records, many years later, are referencing these same individuals. So let's learn a little bit about the context of this. So we're going to go into the Who Lived Before the Adam and Eve story and read through that in some detail because we've got a bit of time now. I wasn't going to cover this in loads of detail, but got a bit of time now, so we'll do that. So we're interested in these three crashes, and as we've sort of highlighted here, yeah, krill, aloma, and sa'at are of particular interest to us in this particular time. But let's show a short video before we get into this subject in detail.
Estos especímenes no se pueden explicar o observar la imagen. En esta imagen se observaron tres huevos. La comunidad científica que lo desee se acerca a conocer estos cuerpos de forma directa. El primer estudio que se hizo fue una tomografía computarizada. El segundo estudio que se hizo fueron placas de rayos X simple. Y el tercero fue un estudio de fluoroscopía. En los tres estudios se trató de ver la estructura, el esqueleto de estos cuerpos, y se logró determinar que sí pertenece a un esqueleto único, no armado, de una sola pieza íntegra, que no se observa ninguna especie de armado o de manipulación del cráneo, como lo han dicho. Respiraron, que comieron, que habitaron en nuestro planeta allá en el desierto. Externa o de armado externo. Que por un solo cuerpo, un solo individuo. Un estudio que ya se nos había ocurrido hace algunos años.
So some of you are fairly probably familiar with that video or similar types of that, which were broadcast obviously around the world. And the challenge for us is obviously it coming through television or that type of medium. You know, how would you know it's true? You understand, from the many different kind of stories that come through that medium. But it's interesting now how, in the day and time we're in, which was foreseen and predicted, interesting enough, how blatant now these kind of stories are coming through, or reports are coming through, and in this context, obviously scientific experiments that are being carried out in relation to these bodies, obviously they've been found. And the only retort, I suppose, from the NASAs of this world, in a kind of ridiculish way, well, okay, share the data. But, you know, is is NASA really a trusted source to the rest of the world? And who says that just because it comes out of that particular organization, well, that makes it solid and should be accepted versus another country around the world that makes equally as important discoveries? Given with NASA's history with the moon landing and so on and so forth around that. So what, we're supposed to wait until that particular organization rubber stamps it, then what now? So this is obviously showing some ancient mummified aliens. This is what the discovery was being released there, and obviously certain experiments that are taking place. So the reality is for us is that we understand that, you know, what is necessary for life. Well, there's three sort of broad principles that you find captured in the name of, or one of the names for ancient Egypt, which is Ptah, which is Ptah, you understand, Maye, Raye, you understand, or some say Tamaray, understood? So three principles broadly needed for life, you understand? Ptah, pertaining to the earth, Maye, dealing with water, and then Raye, obviously dealing with the sun. So three principles needed for life, understood? So often where there is water findings, you're going to find life, you understand? Because obviously water is a facilitator, do you understand, of life in that regard. So, and they found water on other planets. So whether it's humanoid life that they're looking for, but there is life found on other planets, you understand, whether they you want to classify it as germ life or simpler life forms, understood, but yet they've found life. So if they've found life, then it's only limited more so by what, I suppose, the telescopes or the various different rovers that they land on other planets, what they find and what they choose to report. But those broad principles which are there, understood, are the things that show you that within existence, if certain rules and the conditions are right, then life will progress, you understand, whether it's by choice or not. So if you leave a piece of bread in the corner, for example, understood, then whether you choose, whether you want it to happen or not, it's going to turn into, it's going to go moldy, you understand, and the mold is going to produce, the mold in and of itself, obviously, is bacteria and things which are inherent in the atmosphere, and you know, other life form or new life in that regard is starting. Do you understand? So these things are inherent in the atmosphere, whether somebody decides or says, let there be this or let there be that, understood? You know, life and certain things of that nature are inherent within certain these characteristics within existence. Understood? So the difficulty is if you constrain your mind to what they are going to give and what they are going to teach, then it's going to fall short, as I say, of, you know, the reality of what's in and around us. You understand? It's probably even more arrogant. I'm not saying that people must, as I say, automatically believe there's other life out there, but there's 100 million stars in the Milky Way galaxy alone. Understood? So this one sun that we have 93 million miles away, understood, is responsible for life on this planet. And we understand as well that life existed on other planets within our solar system, Mars in particular, before it died out. And the interesting thing is about there's three primary colors, which you know is blue, yellow and red, understood, but we have planets of different colors, you understand, which are not blue, yellow and red. So does that mean then that those planets then are artificial in nature because they don't have the natural colors of blue, yellow and red? We know Mars is known as what? The red planet. We see that Earth isn't categorized oftentimes as the blue planet. Yeah, so planets should have the primary colors. Yeah, so when we have planets of different colors, something else then is responsible for altering that atmosphere to a more, as I say, unnatural or artificial, let's say, frequency, or somebody's tampered with it in that, maybe in its past or something of that nature. So these are some of the characteristics that show that, you know, maybe what we thought was out there, and how it came around and what its influences are very different to the baby kind of version of the world that we've been given from these monotheistic religions. You understand? And so scientists obviously are now finding out things and going and looking and seeking for evidence, etc. But the issue may not be with the scientists. The issue may be with the true gods of this modern world at the moment, which is politicians. You understand? So they're the ones who are deciding, so on and so forth, what should be released and what should not be released, which obviously will colour our view of the world. What certainly did before, we were able to get our own source of good news, referred to as Dr. Malachi KZ, could be New York. So let's work through this from page 38. Yeah, who lived before the Adam and Eve story? Yeah, one supreme mathematics series. So it says, question: was Yaanuwn chosen or singled out for us? Answer: no. Yaanuwn was not chosen. Yaanuwn was bred for us. He came from a star fleet of people that are scientists and storagers or loggers of information. Now, the ones who keep the Akasha records, they keep the logs of everything that takes place in all the universe. They are like what you would refer to as accountants. They are allowed to go from galaxy to galaxy. However, the time that they reside in galaxies changes. You humans reside in a galaxy for 90 years. On the planet that Yaanuwn comes from, they live to be trillions of years old. Then there, the beings are raised up to a level of etheric beings or beings of light energy. When they are here in the physical, they live 120 years. So to stay here for 20 years is like staying here for a day. They stay and then move on to another galaxy. So he was not picked out of a group to come here. A whole star fleet came to Earth in ether form, and the body or person utilized was Natir Aferti Atumbre back in 1970. So this is an important characteristic for us to understand, is that obviously religions in that sense, or in this context, our culture is designed for us. And as we've said many times in this class, you have to understand that we're talking about our ancestors who are obviously much older than we are. We're probably a very modern, but we're a younger species in comparison to them. We are their children, understood? But as I've made the point many times in these classes, within a singular household, you understand, from parents to children, you can have a disconnect because of the way time, events that happen within time, and as we know in this day and time, or the events within time are moving a lot faster than they are at the moment. You can have a disconnect. Yeah, so parents are not really listening to the same music as their children. They're not into the same things. They speak a different language, so on and so forth. So if you think about it, ancestors obviously placing seeds in the waters of this planet, and then periodically revisiting this planet to see how that life form is growing out of the waters, and at periodic points either altering or intercepting genes or providing information, outformation, the form of information to that species to help them to develop, to help them to grow at key points of their development, understood, and then upgrading them. So for example, about 54,000 years ago, women were given the ability to speak. They spoke first, for example, from various experiments that were taking place with various life forms on this planet, and we were given the ability to speak complex language. So we went from a clicking type language to the FOX2 Pro gene, giving us the ability to speak much more complex language, more complex language, you understand, by formulating different sounds and words, so on and so forth. So at various points, our DNA has been upgraded by way of interception, or things have been switched on and off that's helped us to develop. It's not a case of click your fingers and things magically come into existence, understood? We've been bred over a long period of time, and continue. If you read the sacred records of Atumre, there's still even further corrections that are required Yeah, for us to become what we would call, at least in the physical, to a state of perfect. But perfect, even then, still can mean changes and upgrades and improvements that are required, like scientists who are doing experiments. You understand? You keep obviously developing, growing things and learning, so on and so forth. It's not this kind of magical, boom, click, things are perfect, or the story how it's been drilled to us, as I say, through these monotheistic religions. So Wu-Sabat has the spiritual science that links us into natural nature, and the spiritual science for us as a race of people that helps us unify us mentally but also physically. Each of the different races out there have their own spiritual science as well, which unifies them mentally, and then obviously the physical unity follows thereafter. So it has to be designed for the mindset of this day and time. Do you understand? Which is why, as Yaanuwn previously expressed, they had a trouble teaching us when it came to us in the 60s. Understood? Yes, we had black consciousness. Yes, we were walking around in African clothing and had afros, and we were wearing our hair natural and various different, and we're proud of who we were and proud of our look as black people. You understand? As a response to much of the trauma and things that were going on by those exacting wrong racism upon us, understood. But our mind was not ready to necessarily be expanded out from Earth out into what was there in the wider universe of who we sort of truly were, understood. So when they came with the science of Wu-Sabat, understood, and that sort of 9-ball high level information, people, it was just too heavy for them. You understand? So we wanted to believe, we wanted to worship, understood? And so they came giving us what we wanted, so we would learn to want what they really came to give in that regard. You understand? So this was some of the trouble that they faced, where the incarnated masters have to design a doctrine for the mindset of our people at the time. One moment. Right, let's see if that keeps that on. So yeah, so this is something important that we have to understand. So even religions or doctrines in that regard are designed, understood. The issue is that in this day and time, because there's so much separation and the creating of sectism, etc., that has permeated many different religions on the planet, yeah, and everybody trying to claim to be the original, understood. Well, even in their own story, aren't they getting revisions? So in their own story, if we take the Bible, for example, a set of rules and principles was given to who they say was the first person, even though the Bible doesn't say that, but they talk about something given to Adam. Well, then, understood, and in that context, understood, then Abraham was given a different set of rules. Then we get down to Moses. He was given a different set of principles. Then, you understand, you've got other characters like Elijah. So each one of these books is them upgrading the knowledge or information that's being given to them, isn't it? And then we get down to Jesus, where there was a complete shift or change based on not only the age that they were living in, understood, but now they had moved away from some of the key principles, and he needed to rebalance everything according to their story, according to what they teach. And then that Jesus then predicted the coming of the Comforter, who was Muhammad. So each of these points is somebody coming along and upgrading it for the people of that day and time. The issue is for us in this day and time is that people are trying to, if they're following after Muhammad, are trying to live like Arabs, for example, here in the UK, when it's winter and it's cold, understood, living like Arabs in an urban environment. That doesn't make sense. Understood? So somewhere along the line, yes, they wanted to cut off the fact that there are beings or people or teachers out there that are incarnated into the planet and teaching human beings progressively. That's the issue that they gave you. Then all of a sudden, all this knowledge, etc., is cut off from, 1400 years ago, if you're going back to Muhammad's time, and no new teachings, no upgrades, except with the modernized religions. But when we come along and tell you, hey, there's being sent to us to help us to upgrade, to restore our knowledge, then they've got words like cult and other things that they want to use to deter you from seeking out the real knowledge or the real truth. As I said, we don't dig up bones of our ancestors to learn about who we are. You may have some like the Browders of this world going and doing certain expeditions, but this is more modern type of thinking, integrated with them willing to find, as I say, more information or proof maybe of who we are as an African peoples. But you can go, for example, into the temple in New York and see what you would say as the modern Egyptians building or doing stuff like the ancient Egyptians. Tamaray was an example of that, but we're doing that now back in New York. We restored that temple. We're doing it in Trinidad. You understand? Where they're building a brand new temple in Trinidad. So those skills, talents, and abilities are coming back through the genealogy of the people. You understand? But the issue is okay, were they sending somebody external to teach and upgrade us? You understand? If we think the issue for us is that we have not been directing our energy, our love, our requests to our own ancestors. Remember, we are in the physical and we are also spiritual beings. We must direct or request that help. If we're putting our energy and our help into other than self and kind, then how can they respond? So out of love, yes, they've sent obviously beings to us, but because of the way they've drilled, the brother Manfred Bar-Gibab touched upon Michelangelo. If we think about angels, we think about them with wings on their back. We didn't see Marcus Garvey as an angel. The word angel, from the Greek word angelos, it means messenger. So we didn't see Marcus Garvey as an angel. We didn't see Noble Drew Ali as an angel. We didn't see Sheikh Dawood as an angel. Understood? Yeah, and so, but they came with certain profound teachings to obviously upgrade our people. And then clearly in this day and time where all false things must perish and the truth must clearly prevail, then we needed somebody now to knit everything back up again, obviously to bring us back to the actual facts of who we are and the reality of who we are. And that's an extraterrestrial existence. It's not foreign to us. Remember, as you were told in the tape, Who and What Are You, an old True Light tape, and saying going back to the 80s, the devil well knew this information and ran up ahead and made the Star Treks and the Star Wars, you understand, and all these different types of science fiction programs, you understand, which are basically certain of the symbols that they use oftentimes are real, but the stories are fake, you understand, because the symbols, giving it grounded or using real symbols, real terminology, grounds the illusion, you understand, to give it validity, to make it seem more real. Yeah, so that when you come along now and the real truth and the real information comes along, it sounds like you're kicking out some kind of science fiction movie or science fiction story. Oh, well, we saw what you just said in Star Trek, you understand? But yeah, what's the explanation? Why would our people be interested in what is taking place in the stars? You know, human beings, or certainly human beings in the West and hemisphere, and count your own lives as a great example of that. Are you in your daily lives looking up at the night sky? If you've taken and gone about buying a house, are you interested in the location of your property in relation to the stars? You understand? Or aligning certain aspects of your property in relation to the stars. If you are a Christian or a Muslim or follow the Judaic teachings, for example, is your temple positioned and aligned with the stars? Or is there interest in and around that? Or do you have knowledge of those things? Those things are not taught. So the question is, why are your ancestors interested in aligning monuments with certain star constellations? You understand? Why are your ancestors interest in positioning certain cities in certain set locations on the planet in relation to the stars. Whereas this star knowledge, you understand, solar biological knowledge, lunar biological knowledge, where has it gone? Yeah, where is it in this day and time? Where's the interest? Where's the motivation? Where's the desire? That's a characteristic of our people. Go and look at those ancient tribes. That's a characteristic of our people. Where's that motivation in us today? Where's that will in us today as a people? Yeah, because there's so much out there to bat it down out of us, whether it's your job, your 9 to 5, the pressures of life, etc. Understood that we have not even mastered the ability to even manage life, that we can even look up and above, outside, you understand, of the planet for our true origins. You understand? Because certain people on the planet, that's not their origin, then clearly if you don't have it for yourself, you're not going to know, because they're not interested or really have that care for you like that. As we were touching upon in the previous class, there's been no real proper detailed scientific study on the psychological and physical impacts of wrong racism on a people, and how long it really takes to recover from that. As we touched on these classes about the epigenetics and the fact that behaviors today affect future generations. So how long does it take? How long would it take for slavery, you understand, and the forced kidnapping of our people? How long would it take for the damage caused by racism to exit out of a people's genes? All this is seemingly unknown when it's us. Yeah, but if it was them, you'd certainly know about the impacts of all the stuff that happened to them. But when it's us, no one cares. Yeah, so when you're taking any information source, excuse me, yeah, and who it's coming from, you better be one of the first things. Well, clearly, is it factual? Yeah, it will maybe be the first points of looking at for your research. But the other issue, which is the element of the spell, which is not much spoken about, is the spiritual ignorance. Understood? Is the case of what is the person, is what's being written or who wrote it, is the person for or against you? Yeah, this is important. Is the person for or against you? Yeah, because it doesn't matter oftentimes what's written. Yeah, certain people will have a certain agenda around it. They don't often write from a neutral perspective. Yeah, and it's a problem for us in trying to find out the truth about who and what we are today. Yeah, so this has always been a part of our culture, you understand, where we have these points of contact linking us. All of us are linked, of course, directly to the stars, and the females obviously today know this, yes, because their menstrual cycle is tied into the lunar cycle. Understood? The moon is what? Extra terra astral. Correct? So the lunar astrology, lunar biology, not astrology, lunar biology, the lunar forces have a biological effect, of course, on the females today. So they still have the link and the connection to natural nature, understand, in that extraterrestrial connection that exists. You understand? So as nature changes, having that connection, of course, you understand, if they're in the right mindset and frequency, they will alter and change as a result also. But need to be taught and prepared in that regard, as we all do. So beings or incarnate elders are sent into the world to help reform, you understand, because we have been misinformed, you understand, which has caused us to be out of alignment. So our form has to be corrected, isn't it? You understand? And so outformation is needed basically to what? Yeah, get us in the correct outformation in the form of information, gets us in the right or correct form according to who we are, according to our natural design, according to our ancestral intentions for us, and obviously preparing us for our ascension journey. And as we taught old school kind of doctrine, remember the word conform, conform, they will say means to go, from the word contra, means to go against. Contra means to go against form, isn't it? Yeah, but to conform, because ancient meaning the word con is with, so with form. Conform is basically to say what? Is to say you are complying, isn't it? You're going with the system. Understood? Yes? So, but to us, that con is really contraform, to go against the form. Understood? Now, whose form are we talking about? Is going to be the question. So if you conform, yeah, so you go with the form, whose form are you talking about? So their original form, when they are speaking about it, is the one that they've drew out of their minds, isn't it? We touched upon earlier. Michelangelo drawing his interpretation, yeah, of what he thought God or whatever it is, and that's what they've left in the minds of the world today, even though certain quotes within their Bible describe something opposite. Yeah? Like Revelation chapter 1, you understand, verses 12 through to 14. So the issue is that basically there's a certain form in their mind. So if the original form, which they knew about before they burned down our libraries, they burned down certain records so they could establish a modern story, a modern history, you understand? And so everything can go back to ancient Rome, ancient Greece, understood, when the Greeks were known to have studied under the ancient Africans. But every book seems to go back to a Greek meaning, understood. Where is the African meaning? If you studied Aristotle, Plato, and these guys, if they studied under the ancient Egyptians, then where is our definitions of all these different words? Yeah, they've eliminated it, yeah, under the term modernization, yeah, which ties into the word mode. So instead of having a 360 view of the world, or even a 720 degree of the world, 360 degree mastery of the physical, 360 degree mastery of the spiritual, understood, we get a modern version, so a certain mode locked into a certain frequency range, understand, mainly dealing with light or fire in their regard. And we know that the light spectrum is not the whole of the electromagnetic spectrum. It's only 400 to 700 nanometers. Yeah, so it's a small aspect of the whole. And so if anything's vibrating outside of 400 to 700 nanometers, we can't see it. Does it mean it doesn't exist? No, it just means that we can't perceive it. That's why dogs can hear what we can't hear. Bats can hear perceive what we can't perceive. Many life forms on this planet interpret or have a wider perception than humans' perception of the electromagnetic spectrum. So there are things in existence that we can't perceive, understood, using the way in which our senses are used at the moment, or have been taught how to use our senses. It doesn't mean things don't exist. Do you understand? So these are the challenges and the problems that we face, understood, which is why, as I say, two things in this day and time. We were told at one point in the doctrine, in the pre-hereafter doctrine, to read with an open mind. You understand? Which we still must retain that characteristic today, even though we're always searching for facts. We're always searching for confirmation. You understand? Sound right reasoning is based on sound, yeah, the word sound, but sound is like foundation, strong foundation, not belief, not faith. Yeah, so it's an evoluting or growing or revolving journey in that regard to find facts. Yeah, facts give you confidence. Yeah, belief infers doubt. Understood? Yes, but in this day and time we read with a controlled mind, because there are various different forces that can take advantage of our our open-mindedness to be able to receive different frequencies. We are receiving frequencies externally to us, being heavily melanated, but we've also got influences, as we know, ancestral influences, and where our genes have been mixed, also coming from inside of us, that can influence the way we perceive, yes, information, because we remember, it's reflection and projection. We are taking in information in our head and projecting an image outwardly. Understood? So we must guard what we're taking in, because it can influence the way in which we see the world around us. We may not be seeing it how it should be seen, yeah. And if someone's in control of our thinking, then we'll see it the way they want us to see it, not necessarily how it should be seen. Understood? So actual facts in this day and time, or Wu-Sabat, is your medicine against that. Yeah, because it's helping us to realign ourselves with the frequency that Wu-Sabat is being broadcast on. Other races have their own frequency range to connect with their ancestral forces. Understood? But we must vibrate on our frequency range, connecting with our ancestors, which we would then always know that what we are taking in from there is always factual, always correct and solid. Understood? And untampered with, because the vibrational rate that it's being broadcast on can't be reached by other races. They don't have the apparatus or the characteristics that you have inherently. You understand? So one was sent to reinform us, understood, or to give us outformation to reform. Yeah, when he came, remember, as Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi, he was called what? The reformer. Understood? The reformer. Listen again. Outformation, information, reformation. Yeah, so that our form was not in the form of conform. So if we say, i.e., that form, they were basically going against the Muqasa, or the Caucasian, are going against the original form, which was a black deity, a black god, black most high, i.e., the black sun. Yeah, because that's what when they talk about most high, that's what they're really talking about. The black sun. They're going against the original form, and they put a fake form in there. Yeah, which is what the artisans, yeah, like the Michelangelos, put in there, which is stuck in your head's subconscious mind, which was a white man, old man. So in their sight, the oldest thing in existence must be the Most High. Yeah, old white man in heaven. In the same is what they give you. So that is what that they replaced the true form with this fake form. And now for us to conform, to accept that, we're going against self. We're going against the original form. So somebody had to come along and reform, introduce what? The form of Ray back to us once again. Understood? By reforming us, realigning us back with what? Our true etheric ancestors, the Natharu. They're the sons. They're responsible for creating nature. You understand? So yeah, reform means to do again, but if you really look at it, it's the form of Ray. As we said, we are the terrestrial representation of the sun. So imagine that all this time you've been looking for God, didn't realize when you walk outside your house or your flat or whatever, your apartment, whatever it is, that you look up and you can feel the Most High's presence every day. We just didn't call upon it. Yeah, that's how much trickery. Yeah, the Celtic trickery has messed up our minds. And even now I'm saying it, some of you still don't accept it as the truth. That's how simple, that's how close the solution to our problems has always been. Let's continue. So, has there ever been any physical proof of extraterrestrials visiting this planet? Obviously important, yeah? So it says, answers, yes. There were 3 crashes in New Mexico between 1947 and 1949 AD. The first of these crashes was in 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico. There were no survivors. All of the extraterrestrials, 1, Greylu, 2, Hutun, 3, Zigrat, 4, Tutni were dead. However, there were 2 other sets of crashes that occurred. Yeah. Any questions? I just realized. Any questions?
Right. No questions?
Okay, cool. All right, so let's appreciate that. Let's go to the other 2 crashes then. So it said, what happened to the 4 extraterrestrials that were on board the second craft? Answer, of the 4 extraterrestrials on board, 2 of them were dead, with their bodies badly mangled. 1 extraterrestrial by the name of Rawal and others' name was Rakan and Kuthu was dying, and Sa'at, extraterrestrial bioentity, lived from 1949 to 1952. Then he died from a virus that the abductees could not cure. They performed an autopsy, and they were described as being small humanoids with lightweight bodies, almost bird-like in structure, and their skin was ashen with humanoid features. Question: can you give more details on the other two crashes? So one of the things is that you remember there was an experiment that was taking place, by the American military, referred to as the Philadelphia experiment. Yeah? And it was dealing with initially trying to get ships to turn invisible in the sand. At certain points by radar, but also physically, do you understand, by moving or vibrating the ship, remember, out of the normal human eyesight range. Remember, we talked about 400 to 700 nanometers is the visible spectrum. So if you can vibrate out of that, but it will be there, but it won't be seen. Do you understand? Now, not to get into that detail of that too much, but remember when they were doing these experiments, they're kicking out electricity into the gigawatt range. Understood? This has the effect not only of tearing the fabric between space and time, where you potentially can open up, this is unintended consequences, but open up portals, obviously, between dimensional worlds, etc. But also, what's happening is in these gigawatts range, if there are UFOs or extraterrestrial crafts flying by, it would impact or cut their engines. You understand? So when they were doing these experiments, understood, what they then realized is that they can cause these particular crafts to crash, understood, by kicking out this electricity in the gigawatt range. So this is why there was more of a proliferation, let's say, of crafts crashing in this regard, because of the these experiments taking place, and then the findings thereafter that this is the impact of generating this type of electricity could cause. Okay, so question: can you give us more details on the other two crashes? Yes, on Wednesday, July the 2nd, 1947, there were a series of electrical storms over the desert, and there was also strange activity seen over the sands base located there. A civilian by the name of Mr. Mac Brazel noticed a strange light flash across the sky, which he knew couldn't have been lightning. The following morning, on Thursday, July the 3rd, 1947, Brazel went to the location, which he saw a strange light appear. Mr. Brazel found debris from the spacecraft crash near his house. The debris from the crash was scattered all over the area, 3/4 of a mile and 200 to 300 feet in width. The material of the craft was plastic, metal beams and other lightweight materials. Mind you, plastic did not exist in 1947 AD, which means that, for one, the people who lived during that period of time didn't know what they were holding in their hands, and two, there must have been beings more advanced than you humans, and that they must have given plastic to you. Mac Brazel. So this is another thing which is obviously, you think about in the last, particularly 100 to 150 years of the proliferation of new technologies and the advancement, obviously, of human beings since the 1940s, since these crashes. In different places around the world, different countries, as we know, have become experts in certain types of engineering talents or skills. You understand? And so the fact that human beings don't just all of a sudden just discover things and invent things. Generally speaking, they say that necessity is the mother of invention. So if we need something, like, for example, like when the coronavirus hit, for example, human beings decided then to come together, seemingly, and create different versions of a vaccine. So because the need arose, then the vaccine was created. It's not just a case of, or you just decide all of a sudden, well, we need to create this in case of this or in case of that. So, you know, just the fact of certain upgrades that have taken place. Yeah. Now, if you mention the term DVD to young people, what do you mean by DVD? So you can see some of us are living to the point where, well, we grew up on what? Vinyls and cassette tapes, understood, and now you're at a point, and then you're talking about phones or whatever, that where we used to dial the number, understood, in a plastic, just a plastic holes in it, we used to dial the number to use the phone or whatever the case may be. Now when you're describing, so in less than what, 30 or a 30-year difference, so a 30-year difference between you and, let's say, somebody in there, if you're 50 and you're describing certain things to somebody in their 20s, how many technological shifts have we had in and around us just in the home? So much to the point where you would have to explain, yeah, what a video recorder is to some people. Do you understand? You would have to explain what an analog telephone was to people. You understand? When it's, I suppose, if you grew up with it, it's vivid in your memory. It doesn't necessarily feel that long ago, but that's how many technological shifts that have happened just in even the last 30 years. So you wind that back to 100 years, it's not just a case of human beings coming along and inventing these things. Yeah, there's been extraterrestrial intervention in that regard, which has sped up or advanced human beings in that regard. So Mac Brazel took some of the materials to his neighbours Floyd and Loretta Proctor, who lived 10 miles away, to see. The following Monday, July 7th, 1947, he went to the authorities at the Roswell Air Base, RAFB, and Major Jesse Marcel Sr. and other servicemen went to the crash site. Marcel was one of 2 combat pilots whose primary duty during peacetime was to investigate air accidents. Marcel could not identify the craft. Marcel picked up the parts of the debris, and later on that night, Monday, July 7, 1947 AD, Major Marcel drove back to Roswell Air Force Base. Before going to the Air Force Base, Marcel took the pieces home to show his wife and son, Jesse Marcel Jr., who was 11 years old at the time. On Unsolved Mysteries, which is broadcast throughout the world, in a clip of a documentary interview with Jesse Marcel Sr., who made an appearance before he died in 1982, said that the most fascinating part of the find was the writing on the I-beam. He said it looked like hieroglyphics. Yeah, in the same interview, Jesse Marcel Jr. gave his account. He also said that he was fascinated with the writings his father found at the crash site. Yeah, so it's a difficult picture, but of this hieroglyphic, or the writing contained on this particular beam. Interesting enough. Question: what happened once Major Jesse Marcel Sr. reached the Roswell Air Force Base? Answer: once Major Marcel Sr. arrived at the 509th Airborne Trans Group Unit, high security clearance, and the following morning on Tuesday, July 8th, 1947, some of the pieces of the craft were flown to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, and this crash was then classified as top secret. Question: you said there was another crash. What happened in the second and third set of crashes? Answer: well, the second set of crashes occurred 1 year after this one near Roswell, New Mexico, presently called Walker Field, at 12:15 midnight. One craft had 4 extraterrestrials who were 4 feet tall aboard it, and the second craft were a species of greys who were cooperating with the Ashtar Command Fleet. Question: what caused the extraterrestrial ships to crash? Answer: these sets of crashes were a result of conflicts between 2 different species of greys. Of the 70 different species of greys, the conflict between the species of greys from beneath the Bermuda Triangle, who were out on their usual observations and mutilation practices when the skies police of more advanced species of greys who were cooperating with the Ashtar fleet forced the other species of greys to fly within US airspace, and they came too close to Earth, which caused them to get caught in an electrical storm where both ships crashed. The species of greys from the Bermuda Triangle were 4 feet in height, and their ship was damaged to merely rubbish. These beings were all dead and were found by the 7 greys from the other craft, who located this damaged craft and pulled the 4 dead bodies out from the craft. These crashes are also the result of the establishment shooting them down, which we just touched upon a little bit earlier. We'll get onto these more details in this as we press through. Question: did any people find the craft? Answer: yes. An engineer named Mr. Barney Barnett of Socorro, New Mexico, discovered that the craft had crashed. Mr. Barnett described the craft that he saw as an oval-shaped, silver and broken open. 4 extraterrestrials were laying on the ground. Mr. Barney Barnett reached the crash site around the same time archaeology students came. Only these were not really archaeology students. They were humanoids from the Ashtar fleet that had been summoned by the 7 greys who were in the other craft, who asked for help from the Ashtar fleet. So obviously the Ashtar fleet, again, a sort of group of extraterrestrials, Pleiadians and others, excuse me, and others, a bit like, I suppose, how you have NATO, where you have, say, a conglomeration of different nationalities on the planet Earth, for example, who come together under a certain collaboration group formally, and they work together, share technologies, etc., but have their own, obviously, independent nations, but they fly under one banner when it suits certain agendas in the protection of, in this case, I suppose, the West from the East. Understood? And so in a similar way, you have different fleets or groups of extraterrestrials who come together in federations or collaborations to suit whatever agenda, as I say, they choose to work together under. Continuing, the military, having been informed of the craft, dispatched Major Jesse A. Marcel Sr., who had top-notch clearance by MJ-12, who are a select group of men whose specific purpose was to cover, or is to cover up, any UFO information from being released to the general public. Mr. Marcel Sr. immediately ordered these 6 humanoids, who he thought just happened to be there, to forget what they had seen, because it was a matter of top security for the country, and told the humanoids not to mention it to anyone and it would be forgotten. The 6 humanoids were at the crash site because when the 7 greys summoned the Ashtar fleet for help, the Ashtar fleet sent 6 humanoids to guard over the craft, while the 7 greys were taken back to the Ashtar fleet to receive minor medical attention. Some of the bodies of the 4 dead extraterrestrials were taken to Langley, Virginia, which is the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA headquarters. Another body was in the MacDill, Florida. The rest of the debris was still in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. Oliver Henderson piloted the plane that transported the bodies. He was one of the people who actually saw the dead bodies of the extraterrestrials. After the 7 greys received medical attention on the Ashtar fleet, they returned to the crash site of the 4 dead extraterrestrials to receive documents, schematics or plans, weapons, and most of all, the crystals on the ship. When they got to the crash site, they encountered army people and the 7 greys from the Orion star constellation. Told the army people that it was important that they speak with someone in charge in order to get the rubble of the ship and the 4 dead bodies being released into the hands to the 7 greys' hands. These are the same 7 greys that the scientists who were working on the Philadelphia experiment invisibility projects encountered in hyperspace, or what is called a time continuum, in 1943. Question: what caused these different ships to crash? Answer: the power that was being generated from the ships during the experiment of invisibility from the years of 1943 to 1983 caused many IFOs, identified flying object crashes. Once someone realized that this was affecting the spacecrafts, the switch was thrown at random to purposely cause extraterrestrial crafts to crash on this planet. This will be explained in more detail later. Question: what happened to the 7 Greys once they came requesting to speak to the people in charge in order to retrieve the rubbish from the crash and the 4 dead bodies of the extraterrestrials? Answer: the 7 Greys were escorted to Hangar 84, first upon which time they were transported to a secret base to meet with former President Harry S. Truman. What happened to these 7 Greys? Answer: an agreement was made between the 7 of the higher order of the same breed that were recovered in the crash in the establishment. These Greys were deceived after 3 of these Greys talked and gave certain information to former President S. Truman. These 3 were then killed by the other 4 Greys. The names of the 3 that were killed were Shatil, Wadum, and Arimma. On the ship were the following passengers. Yeah, this is where we get these names. Yeah, 1 Krill, the commanding officer; 2 Aloma, officer; 3 Afa, officer; Zat, pilot; Shatil, female scientist nurse; 6 Wadum, co-pilot; and 7 Arimma, female scientist nurse. Question: did anything happen to the remaining 4 extraterrestrials? Yes, 4 of them gave information on certain diseases. It was President Eisenhower who made an agreement with these Greys. They were set up and never received a crystal from the damaged ship that they wanted, which, unknown to human beings on Earth, were communicators between heaven and earth, and it was of no use to the establishment. The crystals could be quite dangerous if they fell into innocent hands. In fact, the crystals were kept and inserted into certain people on an experimental basis. Some people became psychic or thought they received some kind of special calling. Many people were delivering a sermon while others walking down the street burst into flames without any external cause. It was passed off as spontaneous combustion. It is a phenomenon heard about but not understood. Yeah, referred to extraterrestrials and creation, scroll 136. This phenomenon is still happening today. In the Weekly World newspaper reports that in Lassac, Austria, the residents are 18 times more likely to die from spontaneous combustion more than anywhere else in the world. Yeah, so this is interesting because when we talked about, or when the Mars talked about in the 80s, talking about obviously a lit fire within human beings, the light in you, referred to that sort of true light tape, etc. Obviously, this is referring to obviously chemical burning process, which we know is obviously crucial, certainly to us, where clearly we are taking in oxygen and breathing out obviously carbon dioxide. But as the blood, which obviously starts off blue in color, becomes oxygen in the sand, becomes oxygenated, and obviously turns red through the hemoglobin in the blood. Obviously, when it passes through the body, connecting all the waste materials, etc., it turns to like a dull, purplish type style color. And then when it goes through the lungs, obviously the oxygen ignites chemically in the lungs, and a burning process happens. You understand? And basically the blood is then cleansed. Yeah, so the fire within, you understand, which is why obviously in combination with our sun heat genes, yeah, which is you understand, obviously for our solar plexus, there's a lit sun within inside us, which is one of our souls, fueled by the breath. And why you feel heat when you breathe on your hand is because there's a burning process taking place obviously within the body. Do you understand? If those things come out of alignment with each other, obviously it can cause obviously this phenomena, because there is a chemical burning process taking place within the lungs, and this is what can cause, as I say, a type of spontaneous combustion. Do you understand? If the gases and this chemical process are not regulated correctly, or there's some kind of failure, then this is what can arise as a result. I don't know why this is not repeating nicely. Right, in that regard. So, as I say, but this is, yeah, when we're talking, obviously, this information, so you are burning black. So, in this regard, as many of you will be familiar with on this particular call, but you have something referred to as sun heat genes, excuse me, which also, in a sense, is triggering why your skin is the color it is, understood, fire through that burning process. Others don't have it, so that burning process is not prevalent in their skin color, understood. They have the apparatus there, but it's not lit, if that makes sense. They have lunar plexus, don't have a solar plexus. So as we take in the breath, we are processing that and obviously triggering or facilitating this burning process. Obviously, when you stop breathing, then clearly what happens to your body, isn't it? The combination of the sun heat genes, obviously the oxygen in the blood, means that burning process, because you're not breathing anymore, stops, and then your skin color reverts back to a more pale type color, very similar to if we spend a sufficient amount of time, underwater, as we've touched upon before, is that you spend too much time underwater, yet your skin color will start to turn a grayish type of color. Or if you put a plaster over your finger and you tighten it really tight so oxygen can't get there, when you remove the plaster, you'll see that you lose the color out of your skin. Do you understand? For obviously a temporary period of time until it becomes oxygenated and the burning process alongside with the sun heat genes kicks back in again. So others who don't have that means that they don't process air in the same way. They do not have sun heat genes. And if you look at their noses and their lips, they don't have large nostrils to be able to take in the air and process this type of ether, to maximum, obviously, effect, which helps, as I say, not only from a melanin point of view, but it helps to protect us from the sun, but also means that we are optimized to absorb the energy or the cosmic energy which is being emitted not just from our sun, but many suns towards the planet Earth. Understood? So, as we touched upon earlier, not earlier in this class, but in previous classes, remember, we have the ability to take in energy from many sources and convert it, of course, into different forms of energy for meaningful use. You understand? And part of the science of religion, be it the interference of the dead in the living, is there to see how we can fall, how we can redirect this energy away from the Negaru, you understand, away from the Negro, away from the Negroids, you understand, and direct it to empower other forces who work against us, or other forces who feed off of the energy that you generate naturally. You understand? Having the connection all the way back, to the very origin of things, even though, as I say, we have the genes have tumbled forward, understood, and we are seemingly far away from our apparent center or origin. Do you understand? But that connection is still there, obviously confirmed by the way you look. So, since the Greys were deceived, they wouldn't help the government anymore and became labeled malevolent. Thus, these species were called negative by the government, but they were helping the United States first, which means they were agreeable to you. However, when they were deceived and the establishment didn't keep their side of the deal, they turned into vicious beings or warmongers. Also, those beings who lived under the Bermuda Triangle for millions of years did not bother to contact man. When they came up to the surface to try and make deals as hybrids or half reptilian species, they couldn't get a coalition between the two because the establishment could not deal with their appearance, which was somewhat repulsive, and many of them also indulged in eating humans' flesh. Question: These greys that were established to try and get the technology from, have they ever tried to communicate with them? Answer, yes, we can communicate with them. We've had 3 over the years, 3 extraterrestrials who were named EB1, EB2, and EB3, extraterrestrial biological entity. Yeah, that's what EB stands for. By a doctor named Dr. Deltlev Bronk, who was a member of the original MJ12 team. Wait, it's just saying now. EB stands for extraterrestrial biological entity. There was also another time when Krill returned and spoke through a trusted officer who allowed himself to act as a medium, referred to Mission Earth, extraterrestrial involvement, and extraterrestrials and creation. Scrolls 84 and 136 subsequently. The officer was asked to name the extraterrestrials talking through him. He wrote on a piece of paper the names Krill, Alpha, and Aloma. The people of the establishment asked for a ship to manifest. They were told to look out of the window from the room, and they saw one that they asked for, their radar to be checked, and on the radar the whole area of the screen was blocked out. This happened in 1954. A physicist named Nikola Tesla was already in contact with extraterrestrials since 1938 AD and brought it to public knowledge. It was not received well by his fellow scientists. With this contact, he received more technology that enabled him to develop highly technical equipment. He developed the lighting machine, and he also demonstrated it in 1923. So he was in touch or in contact with extraterrestrials from the planet Venus, and he himself was also Venetian. Question: did the establishment ever recover extraterrestrials from another country? Says yes, the establishment recovered 2 live extraterrestrials from the Kalahari Desert in South Africa on Sunday, May the 7th, 1989. A 5-page report was prepared by the South African Air Force, and it was stolen and brought back to the United States. 2 C-5A Air Force planes were sent to South Africa to pick up the rubbish and the extraterrestrials that were alive. Both of the C-5As operated out of, famously, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which was the same place that some of the pieces from the damaged craft that had the 4 dead extraterrestrials on it were flown on Tuesday, July 8th, 1947, aboard the C-5A plane, which transported extraterrestrials. The other C-5A was equipped to transport the discs, which had been in the Nevada Aerial Research Report. This shows you that the establishment knows and is prepared for visits by extraterrestrials, because if they weren't, why would a special craft have to be sent? Because the ship had its own type of air. Wouldn't you think that they breathe the same air as you? Well, they don't. The average person would think something like that, but the establishment obviously knew, or else they would have not sent a ship that could alter its air so that the extraterrestrials could breathe in our atmosphere. So they must have had knowledge or encounters with these extraterrestrials prior to this May 1989 incident. Now just think about this point. Yeah, so sort of long-winded, you understand, way of sort of going through to say that basically you're living in a day and time where in the 70s when this knowledge was coming out, in the 80s when this knowledge was coming out, 90s, so on and so forth, you understand, it wasn't as prevalent as we now see today. We're showing you that in this day and time where all these things are coming together, now they're being a lot more blatant. And, you know, many of the things that were spoken about, as I say, particularly in books written by the master teacher, bringing you to this next level of information, removing, as it touched upon that sort of middle paragraph there, the spookism sitting behind terms like God, Lord, Lord God, Most High, etc., when this was nothing more than extraterrestrials drilling or giving, you understand, human beings a watered down version of these teachings to maintain the control, maintain their power base overstood, so you wouldn't see the real deal, obviously, of what was really going on, and in certain instances, in particular, how they were exploiting, as I say, human beings on the planet for their own nefarious purposes. Any questions?
Yes, clear moment. Right. It's Samsung, Sony on a Samsung phone. Was the type of grey the same as the ones who was created by the Anunnaki?
So the greys were originally created by the Riskians, not the Anunnaki directly. So they were created by the Riskians, and they operated as scouts. So instead of in certain environments, going themselves and putting themselves, I suppose, in danger, they would send these greys that were designed as, say, to be able to enter into environments without necessarily, getting killed or destroyed or whatever the case may be, because the environmental context was unknown. And so they were scouts originally, and then they were given their freedom, overstood, by the Mozaku at a certain point, and then many of these grey species got picked up by reptilian forces, and then they subjugated some of them, obviously manipulated some of their genes, etc., crossbred, and this is why you have various different species obviously within them. Some still obviously are loyal to the Riskians or Rozaku, and others obviously are loyal to other entities who they may have been subjugated to in the past, and some act independently. Do you understand? So this is how you've had multiple species in this regard over their time and history. So you couldn't assume, for example, that some are for us. So it's better to assume some are for us and some are against. Do you understand? Obviously, until you interact with them, you wouldn't know necessarily which. Do you understand? But some retain or remain, even though they live independently, are still loyal to their original creators, the Mozaku or Riskians. Sorry, just read did I answer that question? Just read it again.
Right. Was these types of greys the same as the ones who was created by Anunnaki?
Yeah, so that's answered that question. So
that is it. I'm looking, there's no more questions at the moment.
Okay, yeah, so let's just recap, because we've sort of read a lot of information there. So the ones that we're in particular interested is obviously Krill, Aloma. Yeah, so if we go back to, we're looking at Krill, Sa'at, and Aloma. Yeah, so when we go into here, we can see Krill, Sa'at, and Aloma. So this was the original craft they were on, so it's crash number 3. So originally 7 on board, and 3 of them were killed by the other 4 because they basically revealed classified information to Truman, or were tricked, I suppose, in doing so. And then because of that violation, the other 4 took out the other 3. Do you understand? So we can see here that Shatil was killed, Wadum, the co-pilot, and Arimma was killed, overstood, leaving obviously Krill and Aloma, and obviously in this case Sa'at. Do you understand? Now, excuse me. This was also further. So obviously they were living here obviously for some time, and in this later down the line, obviously in 1954, this, I suppose, a different grey accompanying the original crew, I suppose, was killed in 55 by this gunshot in relation to that. You understand? So Krill, Arimma, Sa'at, and Aloma. So Arimma was killed by them, but then there's another Arima, so different spelling there, who was accompanied. So the 4 that were left, Krill, Arimma, Sa'at, and Aloma, became free. Because Arimma should be that spelling and that spelling the same. yeah, was killed by a gunshot in 55. You understand? So that Krill, Sa'at, and Aloma, yeah, the reason why we're getting that little bit of detail is because these are the individuals who visited the master teacher, as he claims, at age 9 in Teaneck, New Jersey. Do you understand? And so what you have to understand is that in these incidents, why these greys are visiting and necessarily teaching is that they're altering the structure of this individual, yeah, to be able to house this whole light being or incarnate elder by the name of Yaanuwn. Understand? So by way of the natural forces in natural nature, obviously when the mother and the father come together, yeah, through that natural process, it's allowing, isn't it, the a new soul or a reincarnated soul to come back through in that system. Do you understand? Because the mother and father are coming together to create, as we talked about previously, the space for the mind child, you understand, to exist. Yeah, so this mental projection coming through, which we're referring to as a soul, is coming through. But in this particular instance, that process or that individual coming through had to be suppressed in favor of Yaanuwn coming through. So the body had to be adapted to house, you understand, the double spirit or double soul entity that was coming through. So not just a single soul being, but also to house this whole light being or Riskian named Yaanuwn. Yeah, the 19th elder, as he's referred to as. And out of the 24 elders in the last cycle, so as we come to the end of the 24,000 year cycle, the 19th elder occupies the 25th seat. This is what we're informed about in Holy Tablets chapter 7. So if you imagine, as we've explained before, but 24 elders, yeah, if you imagine sort of around the throne, symbolically speaking, and in the center will be that 25th seat on earth. So if we looked at it from a side profile view, yeah, we would see what imagine this, the symbol of an hourglass symbol. Oftentimes when you see student teachers teaching in the physical, in the flesh, yeah, you'll see them standing or in front of excuse me, the altar, and you'll see what? You'll see the kind of pyramid structure into a single circle, and then another pyramid structure coming off of that circle. So an hourglass symbol, and that's symbolically speaking of, you've got these 24 elders coming into a central point, yeah, a single point, and then that central point is then going back out and then teaching the masses. Understood? So that Nabab Yaanuwn, or that being Yaanuwn, understood, in the form of Dr. Malachi KZ York, becomes a genetic standard for that day and time. You understand? So they're basically saying, okay, well, this is the marker. Can we all reach that particular level? Obviously, according to our own talents, abilities, and genetics. So we all have to find our level of consciousness, but this is the marker for you in this day and time as a physical example to follow, which obviously those stories have been copied obviously throughout the various different religions. Maybe in ancient times, that same being who had that connection would have been the Pharaoh, you understand, of that day and time, who was seen to be the manifestation of the Nathar in for that day and time. So no different to ourselves. The problem that we've got is that, yeah, in this day and time, yeah, to establish that marker, you know, it's okay to worship white people in many different forms. It's okay to worship movie stars. It's okay to worship all manner of fake stars. You understand? But when we have real incarnated elders, we're not allowed to even show respect. Yeah, to say, okay, well, that person done this. We're not allowed to have to turn the Martin Luther Kings of this world into a deity. We're not allowed to turn the Kwame Nkrumahs of this world into a deity. We're not allowed to turn whoever else. Do you understand? Francis Cress Welsing. Do you understand? Into a deity for us. You understand? To call upon, to act like, to so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? So this is how are you again going to establish back what we used to do previously? Because there's so many forces out there that will cut down the example. Do you understand? So it's not that we're saying, hey, you must sit down, you bow down and worship. This is not what we're talking about. It's respecting enough that in this particular instance, the elders have chosen to communicate through this particular individual, and so we have to be taught, we have to be schooled. We don't know anything other than what we've been taught in this society. Do you understand? And they've got a hidden agenda, it's coloured, so we need our own people. But how perfect you have to be, you understand, before your people are ready to tear you down. You understand? So at one stage they build up the person, yeah, only to try and tear them down. We explained to you this previously, because obviously if you're emotionally invested and then the person gets torn down, what are you expressing? So if you're emotionally invested in this individual and then they get torn down, then now you're expressing negative emotions. Yeah, so that whatever that disappointment is, or the person's been attacked, or however it comes, there are then thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people expressing negative emotions. And what we don't realize, or they've killed the person. Do you understand? They're expressing all these negative emotions. They're feeding off of that negativity. There are forces feeding off of that negativity. So the physical children of Leviathan, you understand, are setting things up to feed their spiritual adverse forces. Do you understand? That's why they'll kill the innocent, kill different types of people, because they're feeding their forces. Yeah, to keep six ether prominent and prevalent, and ghostational forces prominent and prevalent. Yeah, so that 9 ether forces, yeah, the revolutionary forces of change, yeah, realignment with natural nature, getting rid of the viruses, as I say, have manifested, or man infesting the planet today, destroying natural nature, will be gotten rid of. You understand? So this is this game that I like to play, understood, where having us in this biblical judgment, you understand, biblical morals, Quranic morals, understood, Judaic morals that really mean nothing to our people. You understand? They're not relevant to us. You understand? We were never under it, understood, but we have subjugated to that to say, well, who's good or who's bad, not analysing, well, who are these people called God, Lord God? Who are they sitting in the seat? And what's the real and true nature of this being an individual? You're assuming good. Assuming good. But a lot of the stuff that this being's up to is negative. It has a chosen people. Yeah, they're the ones introducing the racism, sexism, whatever, homophobia, whatever the case may be in this particular books. Hate. Yeah, effectively hate. Yeah, now obviously you got this stuff going on in the you know, with the war with Israel and the Palestinians or whatever, and in relation to stuff all playing out in the media, and it's all based around religious, you understand, ideology, religious locations, understood, yeah, which they're fighting over. Yeah, but their God is always absent when there's problems, but gets the credit when everything's going well and going good. Where is their God now? Yeah, where's the God of where's Allah to protect the Muslims or the Palestinians? Where is the Judaic God to resolve this particular issue? They forcibly took that particular land, but this is a characteristic what their God does. You read the story in the Torah, you see that's what their God does. There's people already occupying land, and God tells the Israelites, well, there's Canaanites in that land, go take them out, and you occupy that land. Well, human beings occupy 1% of the planet. So how much land is there available for us to coexist in and around each other? Why is God simply concerned about land that other people are occupying? Why not just find spare land? Or why not transform the land into a luscious and precious environment if you want to give the Israelites land? Why not do that? You understand? Why are you always taking land that's already occupied by other people? These are the things we don't want to address and think about. You have to see what's sitting behind these stories. But obviously in that 9 ball, it was released back in the 60s, saying, well, if you understand the spirit forces behind the Bible, you will understand the nature of the Caucasian race. You understand? So that's a heavy line, because when you really analyze what's going on, it's the same, but with modern day words that we use today: colonialism, imperialism. It's the same thing that that God was instructing them to do. Yeah. So when they're putting us in slavery, when they're abusing us, when they're taking us into slavery for the purposes of we've got stronger blood, and they want to mix in, obviously, to eliminate some of their deficiencies and their diseases, this is ordained in their mind. This is ordained by their God. Yeah, and how you are there, you understand, to service them and their existence. So their white supremacy comes from their religion. Their white supremacy comes from their God. Ordained, authorized, you understand? So this is a science of religion. This is a book being reprinted called A Degree of Christism. Seek it out from your local All Eyes in Egypt store. You understand? Mohammedism and Mosesism coming out soon as well. But if you cannot become a 720 until you've mastered religion on this planet, understood? And so this is why this is necessary to break, as I say, these spell-binding links. Yeah, your true God is your parents. Yeah, if it wasn't for them, you would not be here. And the issue is that religion is creating unnatural intercessors to that relationship. You understand? And creating a fake version, you understand, of this reality for us, and keeping us spiritually weak. Yeah, so you've never really truly, listen, somebody can say they called on God and become a millionaire in music or acting or football or whatever the case may be. The reality is that if you pray, it's a form of positive thinking. So if you believe, as a person believeth, yeah, so it can be. So you internally, as deity, have strong willpower, have strong mind power. And so if you can convince yourself that this book or this entity or this thing is giving you some form of positive power, then great, you understand? The power's coming from you. It's not coming from deities that don't look like you. Yeah, according to the rules of nature and the way they're framed. You understand? So this is why it's important for us to connect with us. I don't know the personality of Ma'at Ka'a Reye, for example, who was a gatekeeper who opened up in her day and time a portal that enabled extraterrestrials, certain groups of extraterrestrials, to come into our universe and visit this planet, because she was a gatekeeper. She's able to open up portals between different dimensions, which enables faster or supremely fast or quicker or shortcut travel, which would otherwise take millions of, meaning having to traverse millions of light years, obviously across universes. Understand? I don't know what her personality was like or what food she liked. It's not of relevance to the point or the position that she plays within our culture. Do you understand? So it's the same in this day and time. What relevance is a person's bedroom activity? What relevance is what a person likes, dislikes, or whatever, to the position which they occupy? You understand? So they want you to judge and tear a person down by the characteristics of how they live in, but we don't apply the same test to their God, who is really them, the Caucasian. They're sitting behind the scene. Yeah, the Wizard of Oz pulling all these different strings, but the illusion is it's a man or a woman just like you, understood, who is both God and the devil. They're playing the same role, as we said before. It's the two heads of Janus, and so one with the smiling face, one with the sad face. Two heads on the same God, two gods on the same head, so to speak. Yeah, same personality, obviously, or characteristics or nature in that regard. Any questions? Let's get back to this. If there's any. Yeah. Any questions? Any more questions?
Yes. Right. Give me a second. Give me a second. Oh no. Oh yeah. Right. From Samson again. He's asking, these higher beings with all their knowledge and technology, why would they allow or accept the master teacher, Malachi York, to be incarcerated?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, you got to think two things really. One is, yeah, when a master put himself up or describe himself, you got to think that, who's the test really for? So, as Yaanuwn himself has explained, he's died for us thousands of times. So, within the prisoner trap within the pyramid, or these different terminologies that are used to describe it, where the test is for us, isn't it? What is going to bring out the divine characteristics that will give us the ability to overthrow our captors, do you understand, or the people that have had us basically not only mentally suppressed, spiritually suppressed, but also physically suppressed over these last, obviously 6,000, but more acutely over the last 400 years. So, as they say, isn't it, the Lord helps those who help themselves. So, you understand, the helping hand that we're looking for is on our own arm. Obviously, part of it is for us to develop into deities, to take up, greater challenges in this life and beyond. So, the test is set out there for us to be able to come together and formulate solutions to be able to fix our own problems. Unfortunately, you understand, we are, as they describe it, then we're not in this place for what we have done, but rather for what we have failed to do. So in this context, we have failed to develop ourselves spiritually. We have failed to develop ourselves economically. We have failed, even though this was many years before this happened, that we had this knowledge and information to build up, to realize what we really had, understand, and what we needed to protect, because the devil was always going to come in this regard, understood. And the fact that they've taken this individual being away from us means that our spiritual development is compromised. Now, our ancestors, within their own rules, would have limited ability to intervene in situations, as you know, where direct involvement could change the fate or the course of certain things within existence. Understood? So rarely, one may say, do they directly intervene in those situations, because sometimes those consequences of doing that may be unknown. So we have the power. Whether we recognize that we have that power within us is obviously described in these books, but how we execute it now is something completely different. So the reality is not how they allowed. Listen, we've got enemies, we've got adversaries who they perceive our rise will be their elimination or fall. You understand? And so it's up to us to defend against those forces. If we don't, and we don't develop ourselves, or we don't have the relevant focus, our ancestors are not there as a safety net to intervene in issues or problems that we could have solved or protected ourselves against. Do you understand? So the test is really on us to come together and free the master teacher in order to for our own salvation. And if we don't do it, then obviously it makes the road ahead that much harder, because that type of being only incarnates every 24,000 years. So had we had realized, we're very bad as a people at looking after or protecting, understand, the assets or things that we've been gifted by the Nathar. We had Tamaray. Did we protect it without, like, our lives depended on it? What would Tamaray be now had we not lost it? Do you understand? In 2004. Yeah, what would it be now? A major city, possibly. You understand? Had we been left alone? So you have forces out there who are unwavering in what they're willing to work and do. Obviously, until our backs are against the wall. Even now, as our backs are against the wall, we still want to argue, be in conflict with each other, accuse X, Y, Z of this and that, etc. We're not coming together for that purpose. So Panatharu, in this instance, you understand, it was on us to protect, not on them to protect. It was on us to protect. And we allowed it to happen. We allowed false judgment to be made, and in their system, it's very difficult, obviously, to overturn that. We're not in a position to use force or any violence in that way. So fighting within their system, understood, to overturn stuff within their system, they've augmented the rules, to suit themselves. As you know, justice in their system is just us. So even trying to use their legal system to try and resolve this issue, it's been difficult, you understand? And what we need is Liberia as a country to step up, understood? Because the heat came upon us when we started to introduce an exchange program with the medical field, people in the construction trade, where we were going to be bringing in people from Africa over to America, you understand, and vice versa to that country to help build up both economies, do you understand? So this is where the heat really came, because they saw the real potential of, you understand, us connecting now with Africa and bringing the resources from the West under our control, not on some Red Cross or some other adverse organization, but under our control. We started to do skills exchanges and economic exchanges, and started to build that. If that example had been kicked off and started, then other African countries would have embraced the same model, you understand? And so whilst at the same time we were bringing all of the Christian groups within the South, within Georgia, all the black churches, etc., together, you understand? So, and reintroducing some of these key orders, like the Masonic orders, like the shrine back again. They blocked us from buying an ex-shrine temple, which you're going to bring all the brothers together, you understand, to convey the true secrets of the universe within these temples, and understand, to aid brothers and obviously sisters in their transformation journey, so that your real spiritual power will be able to come to the fore again. So certainly the younger ones amongst us would not only be able to defend physically, but also be able to defend spiritually. You understand? Giving us those powers back to control nature, control the weather, and these things, which in the past our ancestors used as a form of defense to stop those invaders coming to the fore. You understand? So the test is on us, and you have to understand the mindset and mentality of the Natharu is not one of, as I say, your biblical idea or identity of what they give you, or the Quranic idea of this Allah, and so on and so forth. As we read earlier, they are the accountants, they are the governors, they manage existence within the universe. And in many of our records, when you understand where they've intervened and where they have not overstood, in certain things, as I say, you would think, okay, well, they may get involved in that type of scenario or situation, and have simply gone and looked at it and said, this is nothing to do with us, it's not within our remit, because they're responsible for bigger things. Even the Anunnaki, when you read in their stories of their Most High, yes, not our Most High, but their Most High, Anu, when it was dealing with the creation of this Adam or Adamite being, understand, and they were arguing about, Enki and Enlil were arguing whether or not, as Enlil wanted, them to have the ability, he did not want them to have the ability to procreate. He wanted them to be subject to a cloning process where they could control the amount that were generated and introduced into the environment. Where Enki wanted them to have the ability to procreate, understood? And obviously, being of their own mind, they could procreate as and when they wanted to, not like the animals, which are tied in seasonally. So they were arguing back and forth about this, and called Anu, who is their Most High, to intervene. And as the story is recorded in the tablets, he came into the meeting, And they said, well, what's this? What they said, Anu, can you resolve this issue? Who is right in this instance? And he basically, I'm paraphrasing, he basically said, this is youth business. This is for children. And he walked out of the meeting. So he didn't even rule in that regard. He said, this is beneath me, and walked away. So their mindset when they're dealing with bigger issues is not to involve themselves in what would be, how can we say, minor issues. And particularly in ourselves, they would look at this scenario and say, well, we gave them Yaanuwn. You understand? We've helped them along the way in these particular instances, but they keep self-destructing. You understand? So when we may say, oh, there's a window of opportunity where we need to do something, and may be instructed and said, listen, you need to do this X, Y, Z in advance of the thing happening, we don't respond effectively, and then that window of opportunity becomes closed. So it makes the road ahead that much harder. You understand? So yes, I can see somebody coming in now and think, well, why is this being sitting in there? But as we may read later, if we get into it, or next week, understood, yeah, they're putting themselves on the cross in these situations, you understand? Because there's certain things within this doctrine, there's certain things in and amongst us that we have to figure out for ourselves. And once you know, you sort of, okay, then I'll protect the secret. You understand? It's not everything that can be laid to you on a plate. Yeah, certain things you have to learn, you have to apply, you have to experience. You understand? And more importantly for us is that we have to start putting our requests upon our ancestors. Many people are throwing in their requests for assistance and help in their lives to nothingness, and have not learned the correct rituals of how to connect and place those resources, ancestral resources, to help them in their daily lives. And more importantly, for us to learn how to pray or direct those prayers and requests against our enemies. This is one of the things that's quite crucial, because your enemies are continually out there, seen and unseen, working against you. But if you don't direct forces against them, then, you understand, then they're going to continue to progress and gain more powerful. We always seem to have more vim and energy and negative energy for each other when we're in an argument, and let, the real kind of culprits, who are our enemies, off scot-free. Do you understand? And so you have to learn to direct that energy so they're less powerful or eliminated, so that we can rise up. If we leave them and then we're attacking each other for various different issues, then simply the devils, you understand, continue to win, because we haven't effectively targeted or weakened their power. You understand? You don't just, if somebody attacks you, you're not just interested in attacking the shooter. Someone tries to shoot you, you're not interested just in attacking the shooter. You need to take out the person who gave the order. You understand? So when we direct a prayer for protection, it's designed. Yeah, we're asking, if you remember in the sacred records of Tamaray, take out the person's whole bloodline. Yeah, take out the person's whole bloodline. Children, wife, everybody. Take the whole bloodline out. Wipe them from existence. That's how powerful our prayers were. So I can see, people might be nervous about using that kind of power of prayer, but that's how our ancestors think. They don't forgive and do not forget. That's their mentality. We don't forgive and we don't forget. That's their mindset. So, but the issue is us directing, using our powers against each other. That's not, you understand? When you're doing that, you're hurting yourself. I'm not saying there aren't bad people within our culture that don't require that, or within our family setup, whatever, that don't require that. But it's not your first port of call. Do you understand? So, because attacking them is attacking yourself. Do you understand? So we have to at least direct the root of the problem to who is doing it, and effectively weaken them, as well as coming together and understanding, and say, the power of our unity, and that, even if we don't like the people that we're working with, well, our enemy and the consequences of not coming together are much greater than this seemingly petty argument that's keeping us disunified, you understand, and allowing them to become more powerful and retain their power base, you understand? So in short, that's the test that's in front of us. The Riskians do help, are helping us, but they only intervene in certain things because we have the power to help ourselves. Any other questions?
No further questions.
Okay, so let's get back to where we were then. So it says on 451, yeah, excuse me. So I did what I came to do, set the Sajal record straight. And now that Wu-Sabat, Wu-Sabat is on the move, spreading world over, many are coming to know the truth of who and what I am and why I incarnated to them. 452, accept me or not, truth will be truth. It is not important to me as a writer or who I am as one of social status or by birthplace or where I got all the outformation into information. What is most important and very, very important, however, is whether I teach actual factual truth or is it falsehood, fact or fiction, right, correct knowledge or ignorance, right or wrong, honesty or deception. 453. Wu-Sabat is something you do not just read. You actually sha'ur, feel it physically working on your inside outward, and you know it's for you. Personally, it's yours. 454. It gives you the power and authority within yourselves that are strong enough to help liberate you from adverse and deceptive forces and make our own people free and equal to each other. 455. Africans, Nagaru, Negroids, you must take out time to kayus, reason yourself for yourself and your well-being. What is duly inscribed in this work, and if you cannot scientifically refute the scientific outformation into information you're reading there herein, then you are a reasonable and intelligent person. It is incumbent upon you to accept and adhere to Wu-Sabat as a Nawapian or Sabian, and these irrefutable actual facts, and you will hear as sensible and positive person, a reader and also listener who hears the truth and know it's true. 456. You owe it to yourself and those you love, and those you love owe you consideration for your concern. Fahan intelligence recognizes correct outformation to information when it sees it, hears it, or it reasons out done by someone else who possesses the right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding, which is sound right reasoning, the true and right overstanding about oneself and kind. 458. By seeking and searching for confirmations and signs of Zahan intelligence, are finding and recognizing truth from fictions, faith from faith, then using it wisely. 459. I, Pa Nabab Yaanuwn, the Master Yaanuwn, am naturally inspired, qualified and authorized by Pa Natharu and the Anunnaki under both Nupu, the original creators, Fatir al-Fatar, natural nature, Pa Murzaku, Riskians, to find liberation powers and transcribe them in the many works I have done from 1962 and circulate them so that they can do indeed what it's supposed to do. Transform you back from humanoids to deities, pure intelligent Mokwanu beings with sound, Nawapic, right actual facts reason, the way, Nawapu, our way of life, our culture, our science, Wu-Sabat. Yeah, so this is informing you and telling you, and as we used to show in some previous slides, yeah, remember it's the feminine forces of Wu-Sabat or Wu-Sabat that appoint that one or that being in this day and time, understood, yeah, to do exactly what must be done. And when you read those original scrolls back in the 60s, understood, that documentation really is a roadmap for us as a race yeah, to find our way back, or to establish ourselves, at least over time, yeah, to be back to being either greater or equal to other races. Do you understand? And re-establish our connection in all fronts: economic, spiritual. Do you understand? Being in the right place on the planet, having control again, living our proper culture, yeah, and optimizing our ascension journey by living our right way of life, yeah, and our ancestors once again being an integral part of our lives. You understand? Not through the lens of anybody else other than ourselves. Do you understand? That's our genetic right, and that's in accordance with natural laws. Anything else, or natural laws, anything else is unnatural. To have ourselves under the powers of another race, or control of another race, their culture, their religion, is unnatural for any race, but certainly unnatural for us. 460. Morozaku are the original creators of this one Wahumakwan universe, and the original persons, bushmen, places, earth, and things provision, which is what Morozaku means. One who are providers. Razak, provide. Because the power sources of Wunawap, Nupu, are the sun of the cosmos, also called Sabbatians, yeah, it's also Sabians, star children, the true Haradu, children of the sun, Melanite children who lived by our own Sabbatian star children, the true children of the sun, Melanite children who live by our own canon rules. 461. I, Parnabab Yaanuwn, and by dictates of Nupu, uses reasonability as well as evidence, examples and comparisons in Fatir al-Fatah, natural nature and unnatural nature, to show Thabut proved statements and points given in Wu-Sabat. And I am obligated and dedicated to revealing the truth beyond any doubt that will liberate my children from the adverse forces like racial oppression, ignorance, and about natural nature and the rules and dawarat cycles, hunger, disease, false information, religious superstitions of the Bible and the Quran, based all on opinions and laws of injustices, unnecessary violence and conflict, and so much more. So again, as we've been saying, yeah, who is saying that that's their job? It sounds obvious, but this individual is saying, well, this is my job. The proof of it is in, you understand, is in the works that have been done. You understand? And so that ability to have sufficient enough care to write books, place it in front of you, or work systems where books are being printed, researched, etc., that are tailored, as I say, for our mindset as it was limited at that a certain point, and then raise, obviously, yeah, what we're being given, yeah, so that we really can now start to understand what our ancestors and what he really came to give. You understand? Not this, let's say, Bible basic information before we leave Earth, but this kind of ABC basic kind of understanding of the world. And really, not that Wu-Sabat should be super complicated, but obviously we have to start to raise back our mind. Our ancestors are scientists. Yeah, so we cannot be that. We must be scientists also. Yeah, within Wu-Sabat. Yeah, finding out, because that's natural way. We're intelligent people. Yeah, we're not ignorant people, which unfortunately culturally, or what the culture is out there, which is being promoted as black culture, is nothing but a manifestation oftentimes of ignorance. Yeah, far away from what, as I say, we are, who we are, versus what we became, by way of the decisions and the environment within this society. 462. Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, I appreciate that. 462. A transformation inside out and outside inward for Pamungaru, Salau, the Negroid race. Shayanat things about strange and alien cultures, religious beliefs of others, humanoid Mokwanu beings, and the human beast and their races that hurt and harm our ethnic and original genetic line from the feminine's mitochondrial DNA. and we live by our own canons, rules. 463. Sound is the key notes, tones, vibration, frequencies of our own F major, A major, and C major sound, the right reasoning, harmony in our hormones, and the Shaye gateway to higher dimensions and access to the oversoul. Yeah, so obviously F major, obviously being the sound of the cosmos, obviously A major in the sound being the sound, so F major being the sound of the planet, A major being the sound of the human body, and then C major being the sound of the cosmos. Understood? And it's important that we have to start to understand these different sciences. So when one is connecting, for example, with their ancestors, yeah, C major tone one would play in the background in terms of the Om chant in C major to help that connection. So these subtle sciences and Wu-Sabat, as we touched upon earlier, is being broadcast on a frequency range in sound which we have to learn back to permanently tap into, so we don't have this up and down, drop where we're in sync, out of sync, in sync, in knowing, then a state of ignorance, which is dropping throughout various cycles. No, it should be consistent where we're permanently interconnected with no declination and rising in that regard ever again. Understood? So, if we eliminate, or once we eliminate these forces and get back to who we are, it should be with a view to never going back to this ignorance or state of ignorance again. 464. Yet you, Nwapians, must understand and overstand that a being, Nwep Mokwan, supreme being, with ultimate power and authority, able with facts and ability to distinguish right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding of all Shayanat things, past, present, and your fate in the future, knowing rightness from wrongness, fact from fiction, confirmation from ignorance, truth from falsehood, and justice from iniquity, as well as honesty from big deception, plus accentuating the positive sense and manner of liberating our people from the negative in the practical sense. 465. I, Nabab Yaanuwn, must warn you, Nwapians, when a person becomes aware and into the possession of Wunawap, the correct outformation, as you are now reading, she or he cannot claim innocence because of ignorance any longer, and thereby becomes responsible and accountable for all the facts he, you peruses and learns from this positive science. 466. That is to say, once your Ayanatwi eyes are open and truly open by way of Wunawap Nupu, you are from that moment on responsible and accountable for accepting and practicing it and living by the canon yielded from the Partarak, the way. 467. Once you are in possession of the Hakakat, actual facts, the master Yaanuwn's secrets, Yaanunnism, and many other works in this, the second cycle, double resurrection, after the year 2000 AD, and the end of the Adamites' rule and dominion over you, once the spell of ignorance is broken, you start to reason out what you peruse as true and learn this scientific affirmation as information. It is possible that you may experience negative dreams. 468. Yet remember, they are simply a reaction and results of your inner spirits attacking as you seek to overpower them and take control of your own mind, destroying their influence over your life. So we understand obviously the challenge. So it's like a pendulum swing, isn't it? When you think about a pendulum, when you obviously you go hard, let's say in the paint, so to speak, and the pendulum, so let's say for positivity, as you feel this need to transform, correct, realign yourself back with your culture, remember the pendulum swings hard in the one direction as a result. And because of that, equal or opposite reaction must happen in the opposite direction. So when you're trying to do what, in inverted commas, the right thing, obviously by you, according to your culture, you start to attract a lot of negativity. You understand? This is what obviously is being expressed here. Or if you think about when you try to eliminate a poor or a bad habit, yeah, there seems to be always forces there to tempt you away from the opposite. So you need to understand that you are, to some degree, in control of that. And if you can get past the point where it becomes something that you're doing on a regular basis, like the pendulum swing, it will eventually settle down. Do you understand? Yeah, to its balanced back in the middle again, but you'll be in a higher level of behavior or attributes that you're operating from. So even if it does swing more towards the negative side, for example, yeah, your negativity is not as bad as it would be when you were on the lower point. Do you understand? So let's say if you, you stopped smoking or something of that nature. Yeah, if you eventually eliminate that, yeah, your pendulum's going to swing hard, isn't it? Yeah, in those first early times because of the addiction, so on and so forth. Yeah, but obviously if you manage to go through it and go through the other side, and if not smoking becomes part of your forward existence where you've eliminated that now, a fall off at that level, do you understand, is not going to be as extreme as it was when you were at the lower level. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't know, you might be around, I don't know, that fall off might be you're around people that you shouldn't be and inhaling certain things you shouldn't be inhaling. Do you understand? But that may lead you to think about, okay, what would be like to smoke again or whatever the case may be. You may have the thoughts of doing so, but it may not will itself into actually doing it. You understand? So your fall off, now you've curtailed the swing, so to be, is you're less susceptible to the negative change, but you have to go through obviously these initial phases, and this is talking about obviously holistically our connection into Wu-Sabat, but it can also apply to behaviors that we're constantly changing to improve ourselves. You understand? So if you know about it and you're ready for it, understood, then you can be better prepared to deal with it when it comes. So not only is there external forces, but this is obviously explained to us about our inner forces, our inner ancestries. In a sense, not all necessarily family that make up part of our 30 were good people in the physical. So yeah, so the fact that they're inside of you doesn't necessarily make them good people in that regard. And they may be very material. They may have been very material in their ways, so then within you they're very material, and maybe point you to things that are against your ascension journey. Yeah, but enable them to fulfill their desires, yeah, esoterically, because you are carnal, i.e. physical, and they are not. So if they can convince you to express what they want to do through you, then that's going to satisfy their desires that are recorded obviously within your genes and DNA. Now, if you give in to their wills and desire, they become stronger and you become weaker, to eventually to the point if you keep acquiescing to their desires, then your own personality can be subjugated and they can take control of the driver's seat, so to speak. So this is the spiritual ignorance that is now been transformed by Nabab into the spiritual awareness and spiritual knowledge of how these things are happening in and around us. And as I say, the enemy within, in the same, but also the divinity within, in the same, they're in those same genes. So the help within, but there's also enemies within that you must be aware of and gain control of at all times. 469. The ones you ignored in life that got you to do sharing out things to please them, wanting to still be in the physical world, working on your mind, whispering to you their desires once ignored. The ignorance resists and they fade one by one. Your bad habits also fade and flees. This is what we were just touching upon. Yeah. 470. So they fight back by trying to indeed confuse and frighten you from being liberated and resurrected by their miserable grips of problems and suffering. And remember, your Yasar family members have the same inner voices speaking inside of them. If you want to teach any, you will have that one who will try and make a joke or say what you are now and on. Yeah, so obviously you're going to face this challenge if you seek to bring this information, to people that you know what is, that it will help them, do you understand, in terms of their journey, family members and so on, maybe in the Christians, Jews, so on and so forth, in these other alien religions, at least to us. And then when you try and speak to them, there's a lot of resistance, you understand, and make you out to be the joke or the problem. Yeah, but obviously one must remain calm and try and show them, isn't it, by not only knowledge but by example, that Wu-Sabat is making those improvements in your lives. 471. And if you try to point out a relative who is Hebrew, Israelite, Black Jew, or the fact that the Judaic religion is not about them, and show them how the Bible says over and over that this Torah or Tanakh and Talmud are for Chaldeans, Persians, Abraham's own seed, not African or Negroids. 472, Genesis 12, verse 1, a covenant made with his own seed. Genesis 17, 1-7, on down to Moses. Exodus 2, 1-6, same Abraham's seed on down to Jesus. 473, and if they are any now what kind of New Testament believer, Christian and of its sect or denomination, you try and show them Jesus was of Abraham's seed, Luke 3, chapter 3, verses 23-28, and Matthew chapter 1, verses 1-17, and that Jesus himself made it clear he was only sent to his own people. John 1, chapter 1, verse 11, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the tribe of Judah only. Matthew chapter 10, verse 6, Matthew chapter 15, verse 24, and Matthew chapter 18, verse 11, and Luke chapter 15, verse 6. He was clear. He was only sent to the lost tribe of Judah, not you or others who are not Mesopotamian, Chaldeans, Persians, Syrians, Turkians. 474. He only came to his own tribe, not you. Don't let them start to point out what men such as Paul had to say, who was never with Jesus in person. Only pretend to have met his ghost. And if your relatives are any kind of Muslim, Mosism, Nation of Islam, 5% Moorish Americans, and also Ahmad ben Abdullah, who became Mustafa Muhammad Al-Amin, their prophet of Arabia, was not sent to none except his own tribe and Yasar family, the Quraysh tribe. Quran 106-1-4. 476, and he repeated in the Quran over and over who he was sent to warn. Quran 50, verse 2. So I think we've explained that in some great detail of, as I say, and in the couple of classes, remember, religion is good to their warner and those who their warner was sent to. Remember the Partarat, beauty of religion. Yeah, religion is good to their warner and those who their warner was sent to. Understood? So this is a science that we have to under into overstanding. Yeah, why no help from above? Even in tapping into the question that was raised earlier. Yeah, and how we direct our requests. Yeah, to make them tangible and real. So this is why the ancestral connection is really important, and those rules around that. I think we did cover it in maybe in parts of this. I can't remember which part, but the previous part of this. You're on your female side, for example, on your mitochondrial line, the oldest female, on your mother's side, for example. So it'd be your great grandmother. Yeah, she provides protection for your family line. So you make the connection with her first, for example. And this is not no sacrifice, no chicken and all that. Obviously, they're in you, isn't it? That's your family. That's your mother's 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 mother. You understand? So we're not worshipping them. We talk to them. We make requests of them, and that gives them purpose. Understood? and helps them to help us, yeah, with their daily problems in our life, but also protect our ascension journey. Yeah, we've not been calling upon them. We've not been giving them purpose. We've not been speaking to them about our issues and our problems. You understand? Maybe in a consistent way or the proper way to really invoke that power and help, but rather calling upon others. So how offensive is that once a person knows this? How offensive is that? You're calling upon forces that, you know, not can't help you. They won't because of those rules in place. They have an own. You understand? If your own is not their own, then you're not included. Yeah, and others, as I say, they will willingly sacrifice you. They will, if they can step on your neck to be higher up in life, they will do so without hesitation. You understand? The program in us is that we won't do it because of the programming. You understand? We will jump out, as we've said previously, we will jump out and defend Tomokasu. Jump out and defend, yeah, because of the programming. Remember, Gad, yeah, one of the sons of Jacob, God, G-O-D, and guard, G-U-A-R-D, is the same word. We will guard, we will act, we will defend them. You understand? Two black people arguing over, you know, maybe a mistreatment of a white person or whatever, when the white person is well equipped if they've got an issue to defend themselves. You understand? So black people love jumping in front. Yeah, but that's part of the programming. I'm saying you can't stand up for what's right or do what's right if the situation dictates that. But we jump out the gate, you know what I'm saying, defending those who don't look like us, and it's the programming, yeah, asserting itself is why we're opening our mouth. When if you reverse that situation, you don't necessarily always see the same people not of your kind jumping out to do the same thing. You understand? So and be careful how you can be affected emotionally and who you're putting your defense up for and against, especially if the person is capable of defending themselves. And let's not say ignore what's right, wrong, that type of thing, but you understand what's taking place here. There's a hierarchy, yeah, of comms and relationships and how things work in the universe, and you must work within those rules, understand those codes, those canons, or suffer, you understand, as a result of not doing so. You understand? And so, and that's the cold reality of the existence, cold reality of the existence of not doing the right thing by ourselves, but certainly a much warmer and a loving reality when we do what is akin and right for ourselves. Yeah. Any questions?
Right. There are no questions.
No questions. Okay, so we're going to kick in this recap quiz, but there's about 10 minutes left of class, so I'm not going to start that in the middle now. So we'll start at the next class. We've got 18 questions at the moment for you to look at. And I'll probably add more to this actually, because the next class will have even more questions, and we will probably look, if we get time, we'll look at the concept of the observable universe. Do you understand? So I did say we would sort of cover that because we touched into the subject area, and it does touch into some of these questions as well. So if you were not or missed parts or whatever, as we do this recap quiz, yeah, it enabled us to touch in on certain parts of what we've covered in the proof that either you may have forgot, or some people completely, listen, I've not seen parts 1 to whatever, I'm just joining for the first time, so that'll be quite useful because we'll touch in. But give it a go. So, you know, people oftentimes sit back and don't want to be embarrassed. You know, black people we don't like shame. But, you know, give it a go. When we do it in a couple of weeks' time at the next class, give it a go. Yeah, if it's wrong, it doesn't matter. You understand? We're not recording any results against it. It's only for your own knowledge and essence. And it's going to help you to grow and learn what's being expressed within these classes from the teachings, obviously, of Nabab Yaanuwn, aka Dr. Malachi KZ York, in this particular book. So these were the last two on the proof of what we wanted to cover, and then other teachers or myself will jump into some other topic areas to continue going forward during the year. So yeah, so I'll leave that there for the moment. Then let's see. Let's jump over them questions there. Give you more heads up. So if there's no other questions, then so next class on the 17th of March. So it'll be the proof Q&A. So if you've got questions about it, by all means, feel free to bring them on that particular class, and we'll be doing the recap quiz. So minimum 18 questions. I may add some more to that, and that'll give us the ability to recap, and then people have questions within that as well. Yes, that's in 2 weeks' time. Obviously, register if you haven't done before, and then we'll get this recording out obviously before then. As I say, if you want to know more about the culture and who we are, UnitedSabiansWorldwide.com, and also say check us out on All Eyes on Egypt, Midlands in the North, on our YouTube channel, and spread the word. Spread the word. Many classes, and check out other classes as well. There's other classes happening, other student teachers on a, I think probably weekly, daily basis, whatever going on. So you don't have to wait obviously until us on the 17th. Check out other classes, get your questions answered where you need to in that regard. But yeah, if you're minded, join us in a couple of weeks' time. Proof question answers, but we're doing that quiz, so don't run away from the quiz. It's not as daunting as it seems, but you'll benefit a lot from it. You understand? And hopefully it'll be fun, not too serious or draconian in that way. Okay, if there is nothing else, then closing out for another one. Appreciate everybody attending today, and yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care all. Okay, see you soon.